Joseph Coco at MoCCA-fest 2013. I am here on behalf of Natto Soup Keep On Trucking, the art process blog. If you could introduce yourself, Pat.
Oh, hi, I'm Pat Lapierre.
Okay, and what brings you to MoCCA-fest this year?
Community and also advertising myself.
Right, and you've been here previous years. What do you think about some of the changes they've done? I know they've made it much more friendly for artists in just terms of commodities and those sort of things, or amenities, I guess I should say.
Well, I do like that the aisles are wider this year. It's always been a bit congested. Now people can actually move freely back and forth. The curtains are a mixed bag. I kind of like that they make it look more like, I guess, like a room. But it also feels a little bit constricting because I can't see anybody beyond the aisles that I'm in. But the aisle signs are also nice. That way, when you need to find an artist that you like or find new artists, you can just see like they're in aisle C or aisle F, and you can look up and like, oh, there they are. It's easier to search.
A pretty good program book this year.
Yeah, that too. Normally it's a little but I do like now it's very compact, and you can figure things out pretty easily. It's definitely improvement. I like it.
Okay, and can you tell me about some of your new work? Which one's newer, the Hugging Club or Drop-In 01?
Drop-In is newer.
Okay.
Drop-In is, I've always liked photography put over, like art drawn in photography. I don't see it often enough, I think. Some people do it, and a lot of people when they do it, I find they don't try to really match the photo. They just kind of draw a cartoon in it. I figure that if you can do it in a way that looks natural, it could really like bring out both the art and the photography in like a better way. So I've always found that kind of thing really interesting, just trying to make it look integrated and like natural, as though it's supposed to be there like a real person, but it's not. Sometimes make people do a double take, which I think is always interesting. They're like, they don't really know what to think. They're like, oh, it's kind of both. So I find it fun.
Yeah, and excuse me for asking, but would you consider Drop-In 01 a comic?
Not exactly, no, because it's not sequential in any sort of way. So.
Right, so it's more of an illustration book? Or,
yeah,
okay.
It's like an illustration book.
All right, and what were your inspirations for that? I know you said that in your experience it hasn't been done very well, but what gave you the idea?
I get a calendar every year of a Japanese comic, Yatsubato, and for the past few years there is a calendar they've been releasing of that exact thing, of her running around Japan, drawn into photographs. And that's the thing that I've been collecting every year, and every year I look at it every day, like right next to my desk, and I'm like, I should do something like this because it's fun. And that's kind of like been a big push for me to do it. I dabbled in it before with toy photos, drawing characters into that, but that was a few years ago. But then once I started getting the calendars, I figured, why don't we try and take this seriously and make an actual book out of it, instead of just dabbling here and there.
Awesome. And I assume that this is an original character. Has she been in anything else?
I have an Animal Crossing comic that she was in that I did on LiveJournal, back when LiveJournal was a thing. It was supposed to be like a journal comic from her perspective, as though it was her LiveJournal in Animal Crossing. And I just threw her in there because I haven't drawn her in like a very long time.
Okay, and what about the Hugging Club?
Oh, the Hugging Club is what I'm trying to launch later this year as a weekly webcomic about a girl. It's about high school and a girl who wants to start an after-school club entirely about hugging and all the benefits that hugging can bring. But things go usually kind of wrong because she's kind of short-sighted and also egotistical, so it ends up causing a lot of strife with a lot of other teachers and clubs and things, and her and whoever she recruits has to deal with that.
So would you consider it more of a comedy?
Yeah, it's a comedy. Yeah, I guess it's sometimes slice of life a little bit exaggerated, but mostly comedy.
Yeah, it's basically the.
All right, and what's your experience with taking something developed for the web and putting it in a physical form? Did you have much trouble for that, or did you always know that it was going to be released in a physical form at some point?
No, actually I didn't. When I started doing comics originally, I was thinking only in terms of putting it on the web. So the first time I actually had to put it into a book, it didn't go very well because I'd never thought about the layout process and the actual order pages that would go in to put together as a book. So I struggled with that for a little while, but then eventually I got the hang of it. And now the idea of putting things into like paper form is something I'm always considering when I'm making new work now. So it's not just thinking about like the internet and like infinite canvas. I'm thinking about if I'm going to turn into a book, how would I go about doing that and try to like arrange my work in that way. That's what I'm going to do. So I'm trying to consider both things right now. Like maybe this is intended to only be web and never have anything to print, or maybe I'll format it in a way that I could, so I won't have to like fight to make it into a book. So it's things I'm considering now, but maybe 2 or 3 years ago
So do you find that the pacing is one of the more difficult things you're struggling with in terms of releasing the Hugging Club in book form? Because I imagine being released as a weekly webcomic would be quite different than everything just laid out on side-by-side pages. Is that something that you had some trouble with?
I'd say right now, yeah. One of the reasons why I've been delaying actually going into weekly webcomics again, because I've done it before for maybe about 6 or 7 years, but every time I end up stopping for some reason, whether it's like I need a new job or I need to focus on something else or I have like a financial problem. Now I have a steady job for the past 3 years, but even then managing time to draw, like any artist who has a full-time job knows trying to get something done takes a lot of time and energy and effort and money that you usually don't have when you take care of everything else. So I'm trying to not start this until I'm absolutely sure I can continue it. I don't want to end up like all of my other projects that are on the sidelines. So as far as like writing, planning, pacing, stories, character development, designs, all of it's pretty much done physically and in my head. And I have like months of scripts written already. I just have to actually sit down and like build a huge buffer to cover all of my bases. So once that happens, I'm going to be trying to put it on the web and just keep it going until it's done. And try not to ever miss an update unless I absolutely have to. That's kind of a goal I've made for myself.
So how much of the process of the Hugging Club are you releasing online? I assume you have a strong presence either on Twitter or Facebook or something along those lines. Are you trying to build up anticipation for it for when it's released, or are you more just keeping it under people's radars so that when it does become a full-fledged webcomic, at least people will know what it's about?
I am advertising a little bit though. I put up these original 22 pages on Tumblr, and I put up all the sketches too, and I've talked about it now and then. And I've shared script with friends too to get feedback on like what they think works and what doesn't. This is mostly a test to see if it would work. And this is going to be the first chapter on a front line is going to be this, but redone with edits that I found that I would actually like the flow sort of flow better. And I'm trying to build up a little bit of hype for it so that people will know that it's there when I put it up. Because I've done that with other comics before, but I haven't done a regular comic on the internet in a really long time. So even now when I put up like an actual comic, some people used to read my work. It's like, oh, you're doing comics again. But I don't want to be like, eventually, not right now.
Right.
So I'm kind of trying to kind of lead in the fact that it's a comic that I do want to put up so that people will know what to expect. So maybe if they like it, they could like talk about it, or maybe they can relink it or like share the tweet or whatever I put up. So that way it doesn't just kind of hit this cold air. So I would like to kind of warm things up a little bit before it goes on. So in the coming months when it's almost ready to go, I think I'm just going to start like regularly like pumping out little bits of like, oh, it's coming this time here and there. But not actually put on the website coming with this date, because I never like that. It seems like a false promise. It doesn't actually need to be there.
Yeah.
If you're just going to put it up, just put it up and don't put anticipation beforehand. I just, my personal belief when it comes to that sort of thing. It works for some people, but I just personally don't like it. So I'm just going to try doing it.
So don't take the Apple approach of announcing a product months before it comes out.
You never know what can happen. Anything can happen. You can end up not working on it. You can end up... I just don't want to deliver that kind of promise. I've seen that often, and it's actually disappointed me a lot. And I don't want to disappoint anyone anymore when it comes to doing this sort of thing.
So final question, what would, for someone who's considering coming to MoCCA that has a webcomic, would you recommend that they try to convert it into a physical form, or just produce merchandise and come to the convention to essentially promote the webcomic?
I would say have something in physical form, even if it's not a complete book, some sort of demo, because if someone comes up to me telling me about their comic and all they have is a card, I'm usually inclined to not really care much, because even if the art in the card is nice, it's like either this comic is coming, or because most of the time when I've seen that is mostly people who usually don't have a comic started yet. So it's mostly a matter of like it's coming in some amount of time. Because if they have one already, usually they have at least like a flyer or some sort of thing. So I think having physical form could really, you could see what you're going to be looking at. So that way you already have like an idea of like, oh, I like this art, or I like this panel arrangement, or I like the way they do backgrounds. If it's just a card, I'm thinking, well, I could enter this and look at it, or I can have these books I've actually picked up from people, and I can go to this site instead, and I know what to expect. So I think it's better to have like a little bit of both. At least a flyer, I think, is generally better if you're trying to advertise. That way you have a nice, like, reasonably sized piece of art that kind of looks like a comic page. A card can only have so much.
Definitely. There's no no context in it, and it's really hard to sift through everything that you've collected at the convention.
Some are art sites, some are just personal blogs, some are comics. And I know some people immediately get to those things, and they go right to the cards and add them to their bookmarks. But I'm one of the people who generally doesn't. Unless the card is really eye-catching, I'll just kind of put it to the side. So I know that some people are like that too, and sometimes you just need that little bit of hook to not be lazy and look at something you immediately found. And sometimes that flyer will do it more than a card, depending on who you are. So I'd say both covers bases for all types of people.
All right, Pat, well, we appreciate your honesty at Natto Soup.
Sure.
Yeah, have a good MoCCA.
Oh, sure. Thank you.